Every system needs occasional maintenance, and sometimes that maintenance isn't hardware at all. If your EG4 battery is operating, but readings don't quite match what you expect, a firmware update may be the missing piece. Let's walk through how to use the OTAA update capability of the EG4 wall mount 314 amp hour indoor battery safely and correctly. Before we get into the software, there are a few important things to understand about how this update works and what needs to be in place first. This OTA, or over-the-air update, is delivered through the inverter, so it requires an EG4 hybrid inverter in the system. I'm using an EG4 18K PV, and I've already confirmed that both the inverter firmware and the Wi-Fi dongle are fully up to date. Those steps matter because the inverter is the bridge between the monitoring portal and the battery. There's also one safety step from EG4 that you don't want to skip. Before starting the update, all dry contact connections need to be disconnected from the battery. During the update process, connected dry contact equipment can rapidly change state, which can lead to unintended behavior or equipment damage. With those items checked off, we're ready to move into the EG4 Monitor Center and start the update process. Our first step is to grab the firmware file from EG4's website. Head to eg4electronics.com, click on the Batteries tab, and under the Indoor section, select the wall mount 314 amp hour indoor battery. Once you're on the correct product page, scroll down until you see the firmware section. When you click on Firmware, you'll see the option to download the firmware file. Go ahead and download the zip file to your computer. After the download finishes, we'll need to extract the files. I'm on a Windows computer, so I'll open File Explorer and extract the zip file there. If you're on a Mac, you'll open Finder, right-click on the zip file, and select Open to extract it. Once the files are extracted, open the main folder, then open the folder labeled Firmware. Inside, you see a file with the bin extension. That bin file is the firmware we'll be using for the OTA update in the next step. Once you've confirmed that file is there, we're ready to move on. Now we need to log into the EG4 Monitor Center. Start by confirming you are viewing the correct site and system by checking the station name and the inverter serial number. Once you're on the system operation page, confirm that you can see detailed battery data. Being able to view information like voltage, current, state of charge, and overall status confirms that communication between the inverter and the battery is working properly. If that detailed data is populating as expected, it's a good indication that the OTA update should go through successfully. Next, navigate to the Maintenance tab and click Read. Once the system parameters finish loading, open the Remote Set menu. Here, confirm that the lithium brand is set to lithium 1. If this setting is not correct, stop and correct it before proceeding. This is an important configuration check before running the OTA update. If you do need to make a change, be sure to click the Set button next to the setting so it is properly saved. If battery details are still not populating at this point, stop and verify that you are using a compatible EG4 hybrid inverter and that both the inverter firmware and the Wi-Fi dongle are fully up to date before continuing. Next, select Remote Update. Confirm the station once again, then locate the Firmware Files section. Click Choose File to prepare to upload the battery firmware. Browse to the firmware file you downloaded from EG4 for the wall mount 314 amp hour indoor battery and select the file with the bin extension that we verified earlier. Be sure to confirm that the file name and battery model match exactly. Uploading the wrong firmware file at this stage can brick the battery BMS and would require a manual RS-485 recovery process. Take a moment here to double check the file before moving forward. Once you have confirmed the file is correct, click Upload BMS File. This uploads the firmware file to the portal in preparation for sending it to the inverter and battery. After the upload completes, confirm that the correct file is listed. Do not proceed unless you are confident the correct firmware has been selected. Identify the master inverter in the system. Click Update in the action column for that inverter. At this point, you will see a progress bar. It is important to understand that this progress bar represents the firmware downloading to the inverter, not directly to the battery. Once the file has successfully downloaded to the inverter, the system will show a success status. After this, the inverter begins transferring the firmware to the battery. During this phase, do not cancel the update and do not power off the inverter or the battery. Interrupting power during this transfer can cause the update to fail. After the firmware transfer completes, the battery will restart. During the restart, the LED status lights may flutter briefly. This behavior is normal during the reboot process following a firmware update. If you are running multiple wall mount 314 amp hour batteries in closed loop communication with an EG4 inverter, the system is capable of updating multiple batteries at the same time. Once the update has completed and the battery has restarted, there's one final check to confirm everything came back online as expected. Head back to the battery monitoring page in the EG4 Monitor Center and confirm that live battery data is populating again. After a firmware update and reboot, seeing voltage, current, state of charge, and status information return confirms that the battery has successfully reconnected and is communicating normally with the inverter. If that data is present and updating, the firmware update is complete and the system is back in normal operation. One last thing to note is the BMS charge limit. The rated charge limit for the wall mount 314 amp hour battery is 157 amps. But if you see a lower value after the update, that can still be normal. As the battery approaches a high state of charge, the BMS will reduce current charging to protect the battery from overcharging. When I performed this update with the battery already at 100% state of charge, my BMS charge limit was showing around 15 amps, which initially concerned me. As I discharged the battery, the charge limit increased again, which is expected behavior. And that's the complete OTAA firmware update process for the EG4 wall mount 314 amp hour indoor battery using the EG4 Monitor Center portal. The key things to remember are making sure your hybrid inverter and Wi-Fi dongle are fully updated first, disconnecting all dry contacts before starting, verifying the correct firmware file, and never interrupting power once the update begins transferring to the battery. I'm Kelly with Signature Solar, empowering you to own your own power. We'll see you next time.